Hello, friends. Welcome to the LeggLife podcast. My name is Adam.
My name is Sherry.
Sherry Beth, what episode is this?
140.
It is 140. And you guys, we need to say this from the beginning. We got a case of the giggles. This is...
Is this take 3 or 4? I don't know.
It is. We just, like, the last one, I was like, let's just go with it. And Sherry reached over and smacked the keyboard and, like, ended the recording because she was laughing too much. It is episode 140. And... it is I think it's our 7th in a row without missing an episode.
Look at us go.
I know, we didn't do so great earlier this year. I feel like we're back on track a little bit, which I like.
Yep, me too.
Thank you to everybody who listened to last week's episode about kind of what to do when anxiety attacks. Mm-hmm. Your feedback was awesome. We absolutely loved reading your comments.
Yeah.
Really, it's going to sound strange, but loved hearing how many people struggle with this, but also are willing to, like, struggle and wrestle openly.
Yeah, we're not alone in this.
Not alone in that. So that was actually, I think last week was one of my favorite episodes we've ever recorded.
Nice.
In all 140.
Good.
Well, I suppose that would be 139.
Sure.
Because this is 140.
This is 140.
And we're talking about something this week that this has been on our list of potential topics to do for well over a year.
A while, yeah.
Long time. And this is one of those things that if you were to ask me to make a list of 10 things that I think have had the most positive impact on our life together, this would be one of those for me.
I think so too. It's something that we talked about early on in our marriage.
Like from the very beginning and have continued to talk about through our whole relationship.
Yep.
What we're talking about today is contentment, staying content. We're going to tell you a little bit of our story with that, why this means so much to us.
Yep.
We're going to talk a little bit about what contentment is not.
Yep.
And then even just some, like, I don't know, some, like, how do you cultivate contentment? Some kind of big ideas.
Yeah. Basic practices.
Oh, basic practices. Quick side note. Do you remember the Christian band in the 90s, Burlap to Kashmir?
Duh.
Do you remember their song for, like, Bible? It was like basic instructions before leaving Earth.
Duh.
You do remember it?
Obviously.
I don't know why when you said that it made me think of the Burlap to Kashmir song.
I freaking love I saw them in concert. Did you know that?
Yeah, and we're completely getting off topic now. Burlap to Kashmir. So I loved Caedmon's Call. I actually liked Burlap more,
I did too.
but Caedmon's was like more of the almost like marketable group.
Yeah, I think so, but I like Burlap more.
Wow, we are way off. What if we were just like, nah, we're going to scrap contentment. We're just talking 90s Christian
90s
music
Christian
again.
bands.
Didn't we do that one already? I think we did a podcast episode
we?
about 90s Christianity.
Possibly. Maybe an Instagram Live.
I don't know. I think it was a podcast, and I think we can probably do another one. Back to contentment.
Back to contentment.
I think it's important to clarify, kind of give a definition of contentment from the beginning so that we're all sort of on the same page with what we mean when we say that.
Yeah.
Contentment is just simply this like state of satisfaction or acceptance of your of any situation.
Your circumstances.
Mm-hmm. But what contentment is not settling.
Right.
Contentment is not like compromising. Contentment is not just giving up.
Right. And we're going to talk about that a little bit, but that's complacency.
Exactly.
Not contentment.
So let's tell you where contentment started in our marriage, because it's a very specific situation. When Sherry and I got married, we lived for the first 3 years?
2.5 years.
2.5 years in a condo here in town that my mom owned. That condo was 550 square feet.
Maybe.
Honestly, at the most.
Might be stretching it a tick.
Here's the problem. I'm 200 square feet. and so when you fill out a space, it feels very small. And it was a 1-bedroom condo, had living
room / dining / kitchen. And then you started working from home.
And then I started working from home.
So then it was living room / dining room / kitchen / office.
Office, that's right.
/ laundry room.
And it was a season of life when a lot of our friends were buying their first homes. A lot of our friends were sort of, I don't know, it felt like, to be honest with you, it felt like they were a lot further down the road on where you're quote unquote supposed to be.
Yeah.
I think there's this belief that it's like you get married and you buy a home, and there's just like this progress, and it felt like we were behind
because we were still renting.
We were still renting.
Small place.
Yep. And so like friends gatherings, never at our place.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, I was just trying to think, did we ever, I know we had friends over, but I don't think that we ever had like our whole group over because they wouldn't fit.
No, I can't imagine we did.
Like, especially at that time in our marriage, we were part of a really big group that we kind of did everything with. And it was like, gosh, I forget, like 13 or 14 couples that we did everything with. So there was a group of, 28 people that we just were always everywhere.
But it was always at their places.
Because we could fit not that many
so
in our place.
You and I had a discussion early on in our marriage about living there. One of the things that you and I valued a lot and still value is like the elimination of debt and like making decisions that may feel sacrificial now that help you live the life you want down the road.
Right. So I was just going to say, so in that 2.5-ish years, we worked our asses off to completely get out of debt and to save enough for a down payment on a house.
Yep. That was our goal.
Yep.
And so what we did in our conversation was that we didn't want to just be miserable for 2 years in a place so that we would eventually be happy when we got the home we wanted. Because here's the reality. That's kind of what the world tells you, is that once you get the next home, once you get the newer car, once you get the child, once you get the whatever that next thing is, that's when you're going to be happy.
Right.
Contentment says no matter where you are, whatever the situation you're in, there is the possibility for like peace, acceptance, stability in that. Appreciation. And so what we said was, rather than saying, you know what, we're just going to, we'll be miserable for 2 years and then hopefully we'll buy a home and finally be happy. I remember a conversation you and I having, basically saying, if we can't be happy in a 550 square foot condo, we won't be happy when we buy our first home.
Right.
Because happiness doesn't come from stuff. It doesn't come from that next thing.
It doesn't come from more space. It doesn't come from, that's not what determines happiness.
And so you and I kind of set out on this journey to say, one of the things that we want to be true about us is that in any situation, we want to be content. And when we eventually like buy another home or when we get a newer car or whatever it is, like that's great. Like we celebrate that. We're excited about that. But that's not where like our satisfaction comes from. Our satisfaction comes from this kind of grounded contentment in life, not in stuff.
And we didn't have an end date. We didn't have like we're going to save and save and save and work really hard and, whatever until we have X amount of dollars and then we're getting out of here. Like it was never that. Honestly, we just outgrew the space.
Because I was working from home.
Because you were working from home and we outgrew the space that we had.
Yep. And so we got the home we're in now, which again, 1,150 square foot townhome. It's not huge.
Nope.
But for us, I can look at our marriage and I can genuinely say, we were content in 550 square feet. We've been content here.
Yep.
And the thing that I love is that you and I have even talked about this. If we downsized, if we went back to a 500 square foot condo, I believe you and I would be content.
I think so too. I mean, we both work from home quite often now. And so I think that we would be on top of each other a lot. But I think that it would still be okay. I think that like we wouldn't be less content if we sold our house and downsized.
I love that. And I think that that's because we've really worked hard to find contentment not in that stuff.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. What has contentment brought to your life? Like, what has it given you because we have tried to focus on that?
I think we were talking about this earlier, like the peace that it's given us. I think, as you know, we struggle with anxiety.
Yep.
And I honestly think that because I'm content in what we have here, I love our home.
Yeah,
and
me too.
It's definitely a safe space for me. It's, very low or no anxiety for me to be in this space. And it's not a big space, and we do have a lot of stuff, but it's peaceful because we're content with what we have.
Yeah, I think that I think that what contentment has given me is actually very similar to that. So contentment to me is what helps put to death comparison. And I naturally, I think, could go down the slippery slope of like compare. Like I think about like the keeping up with the Joneses mentality, you know, that we have watched our friends buy $500,000 homes and huge homes and, you know, like the newest cars off the lot and all that stuff. And there's a part of me, and I'm not going to even lie, there's a part of me when I see that stuff, I'm like, damn it, like we could do that. Like, why don't we do that?
We could do that if we tried harder and if we made more money and if we like, you know.
And so with that comparison, it's like, it's almost like I feel it well up inside me and I have to just like take a breath and like refocus on contentment. And I think one of the ways, and we'll get to this a little bit more. I'm actually not going to talk about one of the ways that has helped me do that. But I think it is that, it's that peace.
Yeah.
It's that in the middle of a world that says that you need more, you need newer, you need this, you need that. Contentment is just like the breath in the middle of that message that kind of just speaks to the appreciation and the satisfaction to what you already have.
Right.
And that's been huge for me.
Right.
And I think that it is more than just our home or the fact that, you know, we both drive 2009 vehicles. I think that it's actually infiltrated more of our life than we realize.
I think so, probably.
I'm even thinking about like the way that we travel. So we are right in the middle of planning our 20th anniversary trip for next year.
We took a hard right turn
and
away from what we were originally going to plan.
It's what I was just going to actually say, and we're not going to tell you about the trip. We'll tell you about it soon. But what we have decided on is dramatically different than what I think we were originally thinking.
Yep.
And part of the reason, I think, is contentment.
I think so, too.
Because you and I are so okay not choosing something that is like over the top, or it's like, oh my God, it's our 20th anniversary trip. It has to be like
all of the things,
you know? And so I think that contentment has like, it's kind of seeped into a lot of our lives. And I love that.
I do too. Yeah.
It's actually one of the things that if we were to talk to, and which we do, like couples that are doing like pre-marriage counseling or, you know, kind of starting to think about marriage, it's one of the things that I would challenge them on is this idea of contentment.
Yeah.
You know, that if you can't be content together in your first apartment, you won't be content when you buy your dream home. Right. If you can't be content with a beater car, you won't be content with a new Mercedes. If you can't be content, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like that's the stuff of life. All right, so let's talk a little bit about like how. Because, you know, it's like, okay, that's great. But at the same time, we all live in a world that is constantly warring against us being content.
Yep.
Because every message on TV and magazines and the internet, every message is that you are not enough and you don't have enough.
Right.
And so, like, how do you fight against a world that tells you to not be content?
Yep. So, just kind of looking over our little list here, for me, and we've talked about this too, avoid like comparing ourselves to what other people are posting on social media or even what our friends are doing in real life. Specifically the social media stuff, I think, because it's all fake. It's not all fake, but it's very, it's the edited version of your highlight reel. Yep. And so, you know, you don't post your crap all over social media. Most people post the best parts of their life. And so like, it's just, you know, the edited highlight reel. So comparing to social media is just death anyway. But even, you know, bringing it to real life, you know, our friends have different values, different
priorities.
Yeah. What's the word I'm looking for? Priorities. And I think that, like, and that's okay. I mean, they're not wrong. They're just different than ours. And so, like, keeping our values at the forefront, and I think, you know, just being happy with what our values are and striving toward them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We if you guys remember, this was years ago, we made a video on YouTube about how we travel so much. Mm-hmm. And one of the things we talked about was how, for Sherry and I, we have areas of our life where we want to live big in, which the two of them really for us are travel and generosity.
Yep.
But that requires that we live smaller in other areas.
Right.
Like if we
because
say...
we don't have unlimited funds.
We don't have unlimited funds.
Right.
We have two very normal jobs. You know, it's like we don't come from money.
Right.
And so like we have to, like every dollar has to go somewhere. And so for us, we could say, you know what, like our values are home. But for us, it's actually not. A home is just a place that we want to feel safe. And if it's a townhome or a condo or a huge single family home, like we just want to feel safe.
Right.
But we don't want to value home at the expense of travel.
Right. So we intentionally bought a smaller townhome that was far below what we were actually like monetarily approved for, because we want any extra monies that we have to be able to go toward generosity and travel.
And because I think that we knew, because we had lived in a 550 square foot condo and we were okay with that.
We doubled our house
That
size.
was the thing. When we moved into this townhome,
It's twice as big.
We were just like, oh my God, you guys, we have so much space.
There's so much space.
And
It took us a
so
while to like find furniture because
I think we knew that because we were content there, we would be content here. And so we could live big in other areas and be fine living small when it comes to home and cars and that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I think that, and not only that, Shira, you talked about like the letting go of comparison. I have actually, and I don't think I expected this, I now am so excited for friends when they live big in their areas.
Yeah.
Like we have
whatever their areas are.
And we have friends who it's like their area is home because they want home to be a place of community and of gathering and of just like sanctuary. And so like they don't travel, but they have these unbelievable homes. I love that.
That's great because they have their value in front of them and they're going toward it. Like that's right.
And part of contentment is to say like, I am satisfied with like living within the values that I have.
Right.
And I'm not jealous of friends when they get, you know, those new homes, even though it's like sometimes I do see it's like, what's that? Your fridge has a camera in it? What? What?
Ours doesn't even have water.
I'm not even sure ours is on half the time. What is happening? And so I think that's one of them. I think one of the biggest ones for me is, and I actually think this probably comes from my mom, the way I was raised. It's this idea of practicing gratitude. There has never been a day in my life, even the hardest day, I still had things that day to be thankful for.
Yeah.
A lot of things. And I think that practicing that helps keep you content. When you stop and take a look at what you have rather than what you lack, or what you have rather than what others have, I think that it forces you to be grateful for your life and the things that you have.
Yeah.
I mean, we get to have in our, 1,150 square foot townhome, we get to have an extra room that gets to be a podcast studio and a YouTube. I'm so grateful for that.
Right. We bought this house to make it an office, and it was for years.
Yep. But it's like so it's like looking at what you have and being grateful for that. That's actually one of the things that I think, maybe the thing actually that has helped me the most is, and some people do like gratitude journals, or I think there's a book you might have gone through. Do you remember that 1,000 Gifts book? That was like big a few years ago.
I think my sister got it for me actually.
Oh, really? Just like looking at the things in your life that you have to be grateful for.
Yep.
I think that too often we focus on things that are external rather than being grateful for on all the things that we have that are internal.
Right.
And so just making it a habit to regularly refocus on what you have in your life to be grateful for helps you stay content.
Yep.
Because like if what you're focused on is everybody else's like highlight reel and what everybody else is getting, what everybody else is doing, then where that leads is, well, I don't have that. we don't do this. We don't, you know what I mean? Like,
I guess I can't be happy.
Yeah, that's right. It's like, well, then my life sucks. Their life's amazing. And no, it's no longer content.
Right.
Now it's comparison and cynicism and bitterness and depression and anxiety. And, you know, it's like that all of those things lead to very hard, like, mental health places.
And physical health.
And physical health places. Whereas contentment is like this breath in the middle of the chaos of life.
Yep.
I think another thing that has helped you and I that we, I feel like we do regularly is just kind of like simplifying.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of stuff in our house.
We have a lot of stuff, but we do also like regularly declutter.
Yeah.
When we're like, oh, well, this isn't shiny anymore.
Yeah.
This
It's like,
doesn't sparkle anymore. We're going to toss it.
Yep. And I think that not being tied to specific things really helps. I will say that's a benefit. You and I are similar in that way.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there are things in our house that hold a lot of sentimental value that we really love and enjoy. But I also think that, I mean, God forbid, if our house burned down, we could still be content because we would still have each other.
Yep.
Like, I don't, everything in here is just stuff.
Yeah. Our contentment, I think, comes from life, not anything in this home.
Right.
Like, I would grieve the loss of some of it, but like it would be okay.
It would be okay. Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually, I hadn't thought about that. That's a really cool thing to be able to say is that, if God forbid anything like that happened, like my satisfaction, my contentment doesn't come from any of this stuff.
Right. Yep.
That's awesome.
I think so.
All right, Sherry Beth. It's going to be a little bit shorter of an episode today. As we kind of start to wrap this up, any other thoughts on contentment benefits that you have seen, like to yourself or anything like that?
I think we kind of talked about it. I mean, I do think that my anxiety would be a lot higher if I was not content in what we have and who we are together, who I am as a person.
I think that, I mean, honestly, I think that's a whole nother, like, that topic there goes into a lot of the stuff we've talked about on recent podcasts. You know, that your not even contentment, but your acceptance and your growth as a person has played a lot into that. But here's the thing, to think about this. Our journey with contentment started when we were very different people.
That's true.
And it has carried us, or like it has grown with us through every different like version of ourselves. We've kind of continued that.
Yep. And I don't think that being content just means that you're not growing, that you're not ambitious and wanting more for yourself. I don't think that's what that means.
No.
I think that it's just being content with what you have and your circumstances while still having ambitions, while still having goals, while still wanting to grow as a person.
Contentment is not settling.
Right.
Contentment is not giving up. I can be content in a 550 square foot condo and want a log cabin with a pool and a hot tub on a river and a lake with a boat.
And Bell's Library.
Yeah.
Like, I can want all of that, but I'm also content not having it.
That's the difference, is that contentment is not settling.
I'm still happy without it.
Because happiness isn't from any of that stuff.
Right.
If you got it, it would be amazing. And it's just like this amazing addition, this add-on to what is already good.
Yep.
To what you are already satisfied in.
Correct.
And I think that that's one of the, like, sometimes we can use contentment to just like, just give up.
Right.
No, I'm just content. It's like, no, you're just like miserable.
Right.
Like,
no, you're
just
miserable.
stopped.
You're just there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of things that have, I think, had more of an impact in our marriage and our life together than this. And boy, there's very few.
There's very few. I think that there's a small handful of things that have truly impacted our relationship and our life together. Can
More than this?
Right. I mean, there's just a small handful of things, and this is one of them. Yeah.
I think that this can also be a really hard thing to, look in the mirror and say, you know what, like, if I'm honest with myself, I'm not a very content person. I've been there. 100% I've been there.
Can I tell a little story that just popped in my head?
Yes.
I remember shortly after we moved in here, I think we had, maybe not shortly, maybe it was a couple years. And I was just like, like, I'm over this. Like, we need something bigger. We need, like, this is just not enough. This isn't great. I can't make this work. And, like, honestly, we were like, do we need to, like, look for a different house? And it occurred to you that I think I was not content, and I was also just restless.
Oh, yeah.
And we moved the furniture around, and I was like, okay, I'm good. Like, that's literally all it took. Like, we rearranged our living room, and I was like, oh, no, we're good now. Like,
well, so some of it, this goes to the importance of, like, knowing yourself.
Right.
Because part of you is that growing up, you moved a ton.
I moved a ton, and I think that I didn't really know how to just, like, be in a space.
Yeah.
And so, I think, honestly, like, just rearranging the furniture, and I was like, oh, I'm good.
Still to this day.
Every once in a while, Adam come home and be like, oh, that chair's in a different place.
Like, you don't get not content.
Right.
You just like the change of a space.
I'm just restless.
I
Yeah.
want this wall to be a different color today.
Yeah.
It's not that I hate my life and I'm, like, bitter and cynical. I just, like, I need the pillows to now be over there. Yeah.
I need a different blanket on this couch.
That's right.
Good now.
Yeah, that's all that it takes is sometimes that kind of stuff.
Yep, just a little change.
And I think that you can be content, and going back to your point, you can be content and also still have changes.
Yep.
You can be content and still...
And want the pillows on a different sofa.
Or want different pillows.
Or different pillows altogether.
100%. That's exactly right.
Yep.
So, yeah, this to me has been a big thing for us.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that we don't realize how often this impacts our life. But going back to kind of what I was saying with, like, taking an honest look in the mirror, because that can be really hard.
Yeah.
Is to look and say, honestly ask, do I give most of my attention and most of my energy and most of my time focused on what I don't have or what I want, as opposed to what I have and what I'm grateful for in my life? Mm-hmm. And I would say that if when you make that look, if you come away saying, God, honestly, right now, I'm focused on, like, what I don't have. Mm-hmm. I would say step number one, at least my opinion, is this idea of gratefulness.
Yep.
Take a look at what you have. And sometimes it's even a hard conversation with somebody in your life. Say, hey, I'm in a place where she's like, I'm really struggling with being content. Would you help me, like, see the things that I have to be grateful for? Mm-hmm. Like, when you look at my life, what are the things that you see that I should be grateful for? Because other people have a perspective that sometimes we lose by spending so much time focusing on unhealthy things.
Yep.
And so, like, maybe you need to bring somebody else in to help you see something that you've forgotten how to see. But I promise you, if you are able to listen to this podcast on some sort of a device, in some sort of a location where you have power for said device and some connection to the internet, there are things that we could make a list of what you have to be grateful for.
Yep.
And here's the thing. The list you have might not be as impressive as your friend's list or your neighbor's list or the people who, like, you watch. Mm-hmm. But, like, your list is your list and it's there.
Yep. And I was going to say, I'm not a journaler. I never have been. Mm-hmm. I'm far too in my own head to journal. But I do think that for a while, I tried to make it a practice. Again, I suck at journaling. But I did try to make it a practice of writing at least one thing every day that I was grateful for. It didn't matter what it was. It could just be like, I woke up this morning. Grateful for that, because not everybody does.
No, that's 100%.
Like, if that's all I had to be grateful for that day, that was something. And, I'm grateful that I had a meal today, or whatever it is, like, one thing. And I bet you could come up with more if you really just sit down and focus.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important steps to kind of cultivating contentment is starting with
being grateful for what you have.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. So there you go, friends. It's something we want to talk about for a long time. It's something that Sherry and I talk about a bunch here in our own life. It's something that we have seen the benefit from in our marriage and as well as our individual life. And we just wanted to, part of the LeggLife podcast is just simply inviting you into conversations we have. And the reality is that this is a conversation that we've had dozens and dozens of times throughout our relationship.
Yep.
So here's what I want to know. Over on LeggLife Podcast on YouTube, go over there. If you are listening on Apple or Spotify or iHeart or any of the other podcast platforms, would you go over to YouTube, search LeggLife Podcast, give our channel subscribe if you have not. I think we have like 966 people who have subscribed to the podcast channel, which is super cool.
Yep.
And then you're going to ring that, or you're going to click that little bell notification. That's going to let you know when we post new podcasts. But find this episode, and in the comments section, because we want to hear from you about this, is contentment something that you naturally do? Is contentment the way you're naturally wired? Is it something that you could be like, you know what? I actually need to be more intentional about this. Like I'm focusing too much on other things, not on gratitude, which leads to contentment. Just kind of let us know. Post any questions you may have over there in the comments, and let's just have a dialogue about something that I think is a pretty darn important topic.
I think so too.
I think so too.
Yep.
You guys, we love you. Episode 140.
Look at us go.
Very amazing. And final episode of the month of October.
Yeah.
Can you believe we're getting into November now?
No, it's so weird. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to this whole year, because 2 seconds ago it was May and we were starting the summer, and now it's like winter. It snowed today.
Well, yeah.
Spit snow today.
It's spit snow today. Here's the thing, though. I was thinking about this. This may be the last non-snow podcast we record this year.
Ugh. That's true.
In fact, since next week is November, maybe next week's podcast will be us live podcast decorating our house for Christmas.
Oh my God.
Okay, maybe not. Friends, we love you so much. We'll see you on the next LeggLife podcast.
Bye.
Bye.